Hello, everyone.
Morning.
Can you hear me? Again, this month is about power, and today I thought we'd talk about the power of healing. So everything that's led up to now has been perfect. We talked about that last week, how it just kind of flows in, and we don't talk to each other, but it works every time, which is fantastic. I found this quote, and as soon as I found the quote, my computer was having issues. That website went away, so I'm sorry, I don't know who wrote it anymore. I have to try to find that, but it's at the top of your page. And it just reminded me of how our entire lives are a healing process. It says affliction brings out graces that cannot be seen in time of health. It is the treading of the grapes that bring out the sweet juices of the vine. So it is affliction that draws forth submission, weans us from the world, and complete rest in God. Use afflictions while you have them. How many of us want to do that? How many of us think that in a healing process, there has to be some kind of point where we see the heaven lights open and shine upon us and all is well and we get to live happily ever after because we did our healing work? Now, I think that's in us somehow, or some of that is perpetuated that, if you sit for healing, or you do the right things, or you eat the right foods, or you say the right words, that all of a sudden you will come into such alignment that nothing else will be a worry for your entire life. I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure that's true. I think our healing, or what I've come to understand is our healing, is a lifelong process of understanding our own alignment with the universe and where we came from. So the greatest gift the universe gave us was experience. Because what else can an all-loving universe give creation? What else is there than experience and learning how to navigate that experience to a point that you remember where you came from and know that it's experience to learn from. And it's a constant healing for not just ourselves, but the universe as a whole. So you think about a grand source of so much love that it felt it had to share so much that stars were formed, planets were formed, galaxies were formed, and then within those pods, life such as yourself. So much love that it got broke up into a gazillion little pieces all over the place, and yet from one source. And that source, and spread out, is you trying to figure itself out and where it came from. And that really is healing. That's healing. Way more than anything else. Way more than trying to heal the disease or the mental illness or the emotional strife. All of those things, when we deal with them, bring us more into alignment with our own source, whatever that is. And each of us have a different alignment point, which is also amazing to think about. Now, how many of you have heard the work of Esther Hicks? And she speaks through Abraham Hicks. There's a lot of nods. Okay, and she talks a lot about the vortex and the need to be in the vortex for alignment. That's her word for it. What I would add, and what I don't think she gets to because of the amount of people, you ever listen to people get in the hot seat, that's what she calls it. You sit in the hot seat, you ask your question, well, how do I take care of this issue so that I can get in the vortex? And I think if you listen to the broader message there, it's that we're always bouncing in and out of that vortex. And that's not wrong to be out of it, but it's necessary to recognize when we're out of alignment, to allow for the healing of that particular instance that they're all asking about in the hot seat. And they're all different. So if you've ever listened to any of those lectures, you know people come with all kinds of strife in their hearts that they would like help with on how do they get back in there. How do they get back in there? And a lot of them feel, or at least it sounds like it from my perspective, that if they're out, there's somehow some kind of dysfunction in them. I'm not sure that's true either. That they recognize that they're out is a beautiful thing, because then the healing and the alignment process can start to take place, and they start to understand what that alignment is for them in their own special way, in their own special vocabulary. I've been lucky to be able to visit many, many different dogmatic backgrounds and have many friends in different sets. So they use all these different languages. And there's a young man, about 18 years old, that belongs to a Nazarene Christian church. And one evening while he was at a youth-type service, he felt the call through him to go and sit with somebody else. And from his perspective, he felt Jesus and Holy Spirit fill him up, and he felt his hands turn warm while he was sitting in presence with another person. And he recognized he was being used to help the other person heal at that moment. And how incredible is that? How incredible is that? That in his world and in his vocabulary set, he could recognize at that point he was not only in alignment himself to be used, but help somebody else be in alignment. And I bring that up because I think sometimes other people's vocabularies jar us in such a way that we judge their way of forming into alignment. Because I know I have some other friends that would say, well, that's not Jesus, that's just spirit. Well, why did you say that was Jesus? And what I would challenge you to do is find your own vocabulary. It doesn't matter what it is. Find your own, and find your own way to meet alignment, to meet healing, in whatever situation you find yourself in, and to allow the greater picture to unfold. In 2010, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. Our very, very first trip for chemotherapy, the nurse sat down with us to give us this is this, and that is that, and this is what could happen, and this is how you handle it, all that stuff. Sign these 500 papers, way more than buying a house, the whole thing. In the middle of all of that, she says, have you heard of Reiki? And amazingly enough, at the time, I had started my healing journey in that way, and I knew what she was talking about. And I had been debating at that point how much extra training I wanted to put myself through. Until this nurse, from her perspective, she used the word Reiki. How many of us would use the word spiritual healing? Or now I'm trained in what's called Qigong healing. Or there are a lot of people that say, I'm just going to pray with you. My children call it getting prayed with, so I like that perspective too. Can we get prayed with today, Mom? However that works for you. For this nurse in that situation, the vocabulary was Reiki. And even since then, it's become such a more accepted word that I've been able to travel many, many places and do what's called Reiki demonstrations, and to talk to people about healing in a way that they would not have accepted before, because now the word Reiki, that vocabulary, is an accepted term in the medical community. And how cool is that? That bridge is there. That you don't need to have just one or the other. That there is a recognition that each individual heals in his or her own particular way and has a ton of things to choose from for themselves. And not one person's combination, is wrong because it's right for them. We're getting away from this idea that the one size fits all. But going back to that Reiki, that was an eye-opening moment for me, because within that there was a recognition that there's something more than what could happen at that level. There's also a recognition that that could take place right in that facility. That facility actually had a clinic for things like reflexology and Reiki. And there was a recognition that people need to find their own way, whatever feels comfortable for them. And through that process, my husband was offered Reiki through me and through other people, and spiritual healing, and what some would call Qigong healing on a regular basis. We did acupuncture, acupressure, all of it. And what came out of that, though, was not the physical healing. And yet, there was such a huge difference in the relationships he had with people. He hadn't talked to his dad for 20 years, and that came about. The relationships with himself and his own spirituality, he was able to voice things in a way he'd never had before. So to take healing and break it broader, way broad, much more than the physical. To know that our alignment with Source is not here. Just like you said, it's in here, all in here. It amazed me today who walked through that door. Because that's the other thing I realized about healing, that we are always in the right place at the right time. And there were two ladies, if I can pick on you just a minute, that walked in and said, we received some healing. Now, I put up months ago that would be available when I was here. And I made that comment that there's not been very many people willing to play with me at this point. And yet, on a day that we're going to talk about the power of healing, two people walk in with that request. And how cool is that, too? And how often do we realize that the power of healing is not just asking for it from another, but realizing that just being in the place that you are helps other people get into that alignment. Just being in the place that you are. I use the example a lot when I teach that if you're sitting on a bus or a subway or whatever, park bench, standing in line at the grocery store, and an older gentleman comes to you and shows you a picture in his wallet, and it's of his granddaughter who's graduating in another state, and he just can't get there, but he is so stinking proud. He is so proud. And he tells you all about her and how proud he is and shows you the picture. And you do nothing but stand there and nod and say how beautiful that is. That gives so much healing for that emotional self at that point, because he's feeling so rotten about not being there, and yet your presence and your willingness gave him a chance to share and to feel that love and to express it, even if you can't do it in person. That's another part of healing, and the power that we give each other. It's allowing sometimes and pushing ourselves into situations to just be nice. Just be nice. When it might be really, really hard to be nice, and yet just to be nice. I was someplace serving last week, and interestingly enough, a lot of the servers do have egos. It's just the way of the world, and you could kind of feel that back and forth. And one person called me over and specifically asked me, how in the world do you let those people get that close to you? Now, we're in a position to serve at that point. And this was a question asked of me. And also, interestingly enough, not more than 2 days before that, I had had a dream about just being nice. And I saw faces of people that I recognized that I might have had conflict with through the years, but that was the message through my dream, which stuck with me those 2 days, and I was trying really hard. And it was noticed by somebody else that I was just being nice, and how could you do that? So I actually told her about the dream, and I said, you know what, sometimes I don't know what role I play, and I think that's true for all of us. Don't know what role we play. But when your own soul self reminds you in a dream that being nice is probably the best thing you could do at any particular time, you give it a try. So, and I don't know, maybe my whole point for that at that moment was to let that other server know, well, sometimes it's okay to be nice and just for no reason. We also recognize that the power of healing is the power of the universe to understand us just a little bit more and the we to understand it. And each time we do those things in those little places of healing, the whole grows. The whole recognizes. There's enough information scientifically now to show that our own fields and what we send out does interact. It's that whole butterfly effect idea. A little butterfly and then the hurricane, you understand? And that happens through the entire universe, not just here. And how cool is that? So maybe me choosing to be nice will ripple somehow. Or maybe that extra prayer you had or that thought for somebody else just sends that little far out, because not only does it change them, it changes you. You become more healed and more aligned at that point. You start to realize how Source is working with you. You bump more into the center of the vortex, if they want to use Hicks's language. And we start to learn how to bump ourselves in there more often. So in all our experiences, we recognize that whether we're receiving healing directly or indirectly, we're voicing our grand heritage of divine love, because that's what we all came from. A friend of mine, his name's John White, he often says during his sermons, he's like, do you believe that you are really part of God, that you are the child of God, that you are part of God? Do you believe that? And if you do, then you believe that this is your mommy's and daddy's house. And we act that way. We act with respect under mommy and daddy's house. We eat dinner together in mommy and daddy's house. And we take ownership of it. We take ownership of it. And if we're taking ownership of it, then we need to take care of it. And part of taking care of it is ourselves in whatever way that is. So maybe for you, that's meditating each day and walking, and maybe it's recognizing certain foods don't jive with you. maybe you're an oil person and that really works for you, essential oils. Maybe you're a person that really gets into yoga or acupressure. Maybe you realize that I have some friends with thyroid problems. I'm going to use that example. There seems to be very little in the alternative or complementary set that totally takes care of thyroid issues, at least from the perspective of the 2 or 3 people I know of right now that deal with that. So but through what they've been able to do, their dosage from the medical community has gotten lower. So they do a combination move. They know this and this come together, work for them. I also have another friend who went through a naturopath for some work. And what he found out was the doctor who wanted to take him off the fats and everything, for the butters and all of that, actually is good for him. So he's almost like the opposite of what the textbook is. And as soon as they figured out his chemistry there, he's been healthy like crazy. He hasn't had all the blood issues and everything, but it was almost the exact opposite. So what is unique about you that keeps not only your physical self in alignment, but your spiritual self, your emotional self? And to know that when we're not in alignment, you're not a failure. It's not the end of everything. It's a recognition that, oh, I just learned something new because I'm going to use my affliction at that time. I'm going to use it and I'm going to learn from it and heal with it. I'd like to take you through a guided experience. There'll be a couple times that my voice will not be heard, and I want you to know that I haven't left you. Okay? It'll be like 60 to 120 seconds of quiet twice through the exercise. So just take in the sounds around you. I'm sure somebody will hear the clock in the back, the fans, the birds, whatever. All of that's great, but you won't hear my voice. And what I would like to do is allow you to feel yourself first and how you yourself feel. Sometimes I don't think we understand how we even feel. How often do we get in touch with ourselves? And then I'll ask you to accept the spirit world in some way to blend with your own, that higher frequency vibration that's different than here, and see how that feels for you and where that touches you. And then we'll bring you back to the room. So if you just take a breath and get comfortable any way that's good for you to be comfortable. If you like to close your eyes, it's great. If you aren't comfortable in that way, if you just find a place to focus, that's good for you. I'm going to ask you to feel different parts of your body from head to toe, noticing them, releasing and relaxing, and acknowledging. So starting at the crown of your head, noticing, releasing, relaxing, and just being. There's no right or wrong way to feel, no right or wrong way to think, no right or wrong way to be through the exercise. It just is. Your forehead and the back of your head, your ears and neck. Noticing, releasing, and relaxing, and being. Your eyes, cheeks, nose and mouth, and chin. Noticing, releasing, relaxing, and being. Your neck and shoulders, the back of your head. Noticing, releasing, relaxing, and being. Your arms, elbows, wrists and fingers. Noticing, releasing, relaxing, and being. Upper and lower back. Noticing, releasing, relaxing, and being. Your chest, solar plexus, and abdomen. Noticing, releasing, relaxing, and being. From waist to toes, then our legs and knees, ankles and toes. Noticing, releasing, relaxing, and being. Recognizing ourselves, our own personal power, our own personal energy, our own emotions, our own thoughts, our own being. Allow yourself just to sit and notice and be in the power of your own self for the next couple of minutes. And notice your feet in a pool of golden energy, allowing yourself to connect to the earth and the universe and spirit that created the earth. Allowing yourself with each breath to pull that energy up through your body from toe to crown. So we're inhaling up to our root chakra, allowing that to flow and spread, noticing and being. The sacral, and solar plexus. Allowing yourself to really feel Spirit's energy within you, lighting up all your energy centers from the ground up, your heart, and your throat, inhaling to third eye, and to crown. Noticing that with each inhale and exhale, you grow brighter, your energy expands, it moves beyond you, fills the church, fills the town, moves all the way to the horizon. At the horizon point, your own unique consciousness energy mixes with all of Spirit and all that Spirit has to offer. Spirit meets you, it merges with you, it shares with you, acknowledging that it is a part of you and you it. We allow the knowledge to what part of ourselves is being healed or what may help heal to be more in alignment and reach that source more readily. Allow your own power to sit within the power of God and the power of Spirit for the next couple of moments.
It's with great gratitude that we thank Spirit for this time. With great gratitude, we allow our own energy to merge back into our own selves, knowing that that touch with Spirit is always there. It's never far away. I just learned recently that the Celtics say that it's only 3 feet away from you and vibrating at a higher frequency. How cool is that? Allow yourself to come back in slowly, savoring, offering gratitude. When the universe, when God realized it had much more love than it could contain, it spread out, it grew. Stars and planets were formed. Life sprung up on various planets, life with consciousness, with thought, with experience, emerged and started creating memories, scenarios, interactions with other life, with other pieces of consciousness, which sprang from unconditional love of Source. We're on this healing journey our entire lives to understand exactly how much we are really loved by Source. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. God bless.